took from the Oval Office. You were National Security Advisor for what, 17 months? What was your knowledge of any standing order?
There was no standing order. I was not briefed on anything like that. When I started as National Security Advisor, I never heard of it, never saw it in operation, never knew anything about it. The president never said anything to me during 17 months there. I just think it's a complete fiction. Look, the president said he had to take classified materials to his residence. And therefore he declassified them by doing that. Look, nobody's worried about unauthorized people in the residence quarters at the White House. If there are unauthorized people there, we've got a problem a lot more serious than documents being compromised. Moreover, if this existed, there had to be some way to memorialize it. The White House counsel had to write it down. Otherwise, how would people throughout the government know what to declassify? You don't declassify a document just as to Donald Trump. If a document's declassified, it's declassified. And no such record-keeping system existed. And I think this is just a sign of how worried the president's advisors are about the nature of the problem he's in right now.
A fiction, you called it.
Yeah, look, it's if he has declassified hundreds, maybe thousands of documents that he took to the residence, because he worked very hard on this at night, as we all know, over 4 years, the media should be filing Freedom of Information Act requests for all documents declassified by Donald Trump pursuant to this standing order. I'd love to see what gets produced.
And we know from seeing the receipt of items taken from Mar-a-Lago that there was a box labeled as SCI, sensitive compartmented information. Can you think of any reason that a former president would have to have sensitive compartmented information in his residence?
No, look, in a normal administration, a president is quite likely to write memoirs. He'll want and deserves access to highly classified information. Arrangements are made for former presidents and indeed for former cabinet officers who leave under happy circumstances, that SCIFs are set up that they can go to and look at this classified information. I don't think there's any explanation that carries any weight whatever why Trump just didn't follow the normal procedures, except he thought he wasn't subjected to procedures.
We've now seen this Department of Justice response in a filing to an effort by media organizations to get a hold of this affidavit that led to the search of Mar-a-Lago. And in this Department of Justice response fighting it, they say that there is highly classified material in the affidavit. They also say disclosure of the government's affidavit at this stage would also likely chill future cooperation by witnesses whose assistance may be sought as this investigation progresses, as well as in other high-profile investigations. You've worked on sort of both sides of this, Ambassador, inside the Department of Justice and also inside the security world. How do you read this filing?
Well, I think it says there are very significant problems here for President Trump and many of his advisors post-presidency. But I think we've got to distinguish between the legal battle that's going on and the political battle. I think the Justice Department position sounds perfectly reasonable on the legal battle, but on the political battle, I think they're being overwhelmed by Donald Trump. You know, if we were in a Coliseum with two gladiators, one of them Donald Trump, the other Merrick Garland, we'd be about to witness the slaughter of the lambs. The Justice Department understandably wants to follow its normal procedures. It's facing an adversary who couldn't care less about the normal procedures. And I do think the department's got to do more here. I know it's hard, but they're still not doing enough to explain why this search warrant was executed and why now they don't want to release the affidavit. Last night, for example, when they filed their motion, they should have put somebody on camera at the Department of Justice reading from it. They should have tweeted it. They should have sent it to every member of Congress. I'm not asking them to say more than what they've said in their court filing, but they've got to do more to explain what they're up to, and they've got to think of creative ways to justify it to a very skeptical public in many respects.